Here we are with your plank tutorial. Plank is not a favorite pose for most people, but it is extremely important in ensuring that we have the core support to do some of the more challenging yoga postures. So it takes a while to build that core support, but give yourself the time. Be patient and compassionate with yourself as you do the work of building your plank posture. All right, so like down dog, plank is a pose in which the spine is in axial extension, where you're trying to get it long and straight. And like down dog, there are 2 points between which we are trying to get the rest of the points to fall in a line. So in a plank, when I'm out here, we're trying to get the points between my ankles and my shoulders to all land in that line created between ankles and shoulders. So in other words, I might be hanging here out of line. I might be kind of hanging here out of line. All right, that's just my low back. I might be even here out of line. And what we're gonna do is do some actions that help things to fall in line. Okay, now if you do know for a fact that you have extreme lordosis in your back, what you're going to do with this is adapt this so that your hips are a little bit higher than what I'm defining here. Your hips will actually be slightly above the line between shoulders and ankles, okay? And when you lift the hips slightly out of that line, you are doing a strong pelvic tilt, and that tilt of your pelvis is backwards, okay? So here's a forward tilt, that gives me a back bend. Here's a backward tilt, that gives me a forward bend in the low back. So if you know that you have the extreme lordosis, which is this, curvature into a back bend in the lumbar low back, then you're gonna wanna work the other way with the hips slightly above the line. You're also gonna wanna work that way if your core starts to give out and you start to feel compression at all in your back. If you start to hang by trying to keep everything in the line, okay? So if the hips are hanging, then it's time to just pelvic tilt and lift the hips up a little bit out of the line, okay? So here we go, let's get things in the line. So some actions that you can do. We're gonna start at the very bottom, okay? So the first action is squeeze your feet together. So some people do plank and they do not have feet together, they have them apart. Take them together because this allows you to tap into using the squeezing action to the midline to fire your core, okay? So we're squeezing into the midline with the lower body, and with the upper body, feel the sense that your chest is drawing down the arm bones, okay? And it has space to do so because your hands are placed shoulder width apart, okay? The chest can easily drop down in between there. So the action of squeezing the ankles together, lowering the chest, okay? And now, gaze has to go slightly out in front of you, or else we run the risk of rounding the upper back, okay? Of putting the upper back into too much forward bend. So it's just those 3 simple actions. Let's go through them again. Take it into a down dog. Inhale out to plank. Feet come together. Squeeze the ankles together. Drop the chest down the arm bones. Take the gaze out in front of you. You've essentially then aligned all 3 segments of the spine. Lumbar with the squeeze, thoracic with the drop of the chest, and then the cervical vertebra as well as some thoracic when you look forward. Come back into the down dog. All right, so it should feel extremely active. You might want to do it in a mirror. You might want to videotape yourself or photograph yourself doing it to find out exactly where your hips fall in space. I do tend to keep my hips a little bit high after some injuries. So you will determine where to place your hips based on your own circumstances, but also what you see when you observe yourself. Okay, when you come to class, I will be providing that kind of feedback. If I see that your hips are in a position that either is causing strain to the low back, or the opposite, it's not challenging you enough. If you hold your hips high, but you have the ability to hold them in a line, but you just can't find that line, then my job is to let you know that too, okay? Namaste.